Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. Hope everyone had a relaxing weekend. As we start off to a pretty busy week here already. I don't know if you guys have watched the headlines, but we've got quite a bit of news from a sort of political perspective, both in Japan and in France. What all that means, I'll be happy to go over with you guys here in just a second. If you could just quickly confirm with me if you can hear me okay and you can see the screen, then we should be able to get started here in just a second. If you're here for the first time, I want to welcome all of you. You're here with me, Serge Berger from thestudytrader.com. This is our Set the Market morning call. We're going to spend the next sort of 10 to 15 minutes going through the sort of top few things on my notepad here this morning, and then we'll be on our way to get this week started. We're looking at a pretty critical week as usual. Risk on is the mood this morning, depending on what markets you're looking at. It's a bit more or less, and we'll go through here through all this here in just a second. Let me check one more thing, and then we should get started. It's been a busy, quite frankly, a very busy morning already. You had I had about 2 very lengthy calls yesterday throughout the afternoon on Sunday with some money managers. So I want to give you guys a bit of heads up on that. As far as this week is concerned, if you are join us in the Trade Ops members area, that's our active sort of live stream in terms of flows of ideas and alerts and ideas throughout the day in our members area. We are going to be quite busy, I think, in there this week. And with that, I would say let's get started. We have a very special session as well this week on how to make sure that we capture the major trends. I think that'll be something that everyone would be wise to join, considering the trends that are now emerging in parts of the market that we've been highlighting for quite some time. I want to start off with Bitcoin. This is something that I've posted throughout the weekend in our members area as well, and I can quickly share this with you here so you guys can see this, because we do this real time. The flow of analysis is throughout the weekend. Weekends is important to be able to stay on top of the markets. This is what I posted over the weekend to our members. If you're in Trade Ops, obviously you received this in real time and probably were able to take some action on it. Bitcoin at a pretty critical spot. This is not a Bitcoin show. This is about just global macro. We trade all assets. That makes sense. And you can see that we had a nice move again over the weekend. And I think right now we're at a pretty critical spot, and it should be sort of a risk on signal. The way the most important chart that I can show you here this morning is probably not just the BTC or the IBIT chart, although we are, by the way, receiving a new buy signal this morning in Bitcoin from a trend following perspective as well. So if you are a market rover user, you will notice that we received a new buy signal this morning from a trend following perspective. We're also receiving a new buy signal in something like MicroStrategy, which is, of course, a stock that's closely trading in line with Bitcoin. This is a momentum move now. Remember, trend and momentum, 2 very, very different things. So MSTR, we're getting a new momentum buy signal. That one, if you are using the trend or momentum indicator, you should receive an email on that this morning as well, with the specific profit targets and the free profit target and the trailing stop. But really the chart that I want to focus on here this morning, and I think this is probably the most important one that I can kind of show you here this morning, is really what's going on in sort of the Bitcoin versus gold relationship. We just looked at the price of Bitcoin. We need to look at the price of gold, so this really kind of hits home. Let me just quickly show you this here. Where the hell is it? we can just look at gold itself. We'll just look at gold futures. It doesn't really matter. But obviously, gold having another, or maybe not that obviously, but it's up another 1.3% here this morning, and it's just almost like a relentless train. I think what's important to understand is that at some point this will probably start to mean revert. And so what I want to focus on here this morning is sort of the mean reversion tendencies, or at least the stalling of price, at least for a while. And when I look at these two assets here, and this is sort of like a Q4 seasonal trade as well. So for those of you guys that like to use, in part sort of the seasonal tendencies of markets, which I know has become a big thing. I think too big a thing, but that's neither here nor there. What you'll find is that the price of Bitcoin, which is the blue line, in my view, has catch-up potential to the price of gold. And I guess the best way to show this to you is in this two-panel chart, which I created. You can see that the price of Bitcoin is now this morning actually starting to gain even a bit more steam. We had a crack over the weekend where I think it almost reached 125,000, I believe it was. Yeah, almost 126,000 or 125,500 over the weekend. But I think the real juice is in the relationship of it versus gold. And I would imagine that, as the arrows indicate, that gold has the potential to maybe consolidate a little bit here, particularly if the dollar were to rally, which it's doing this morning, particularly versus the euro with the news in France overnight, which if you guys would like to, I'm happy to address. But I think more importantly is also that Bitcoin has the potential now to really catch up. If you're wondering what that would mean in terms of price targets, and that's always a difficult thing to do. I know that's the thing that people like to hear. But that's the hard part. But I'm going to say that if the price of Bitcoin were to catch up with the price of gold, you're probably looking at a price somewhere around 150 to 155,000. So that's materially higher from here. Again, I don't know when that happens, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is the next few months. That's my best guess. So that's another 20% rise from here for the time being. And I think if we were to see that, and IBIT, by the way, is the ETF a lot of people like to use. If we were to get to those kind of levels, so let's say we were to get to 150,000, you'd probably be looking at, lines we would be able to draw something like this, right? And I think that might be an interesting spot then where we could go in, and start maybe calling it a bit overbought. But again, this is an asset that has a lot of tailwinds from a liquidity perspective. Also, a lot of people are increasingly concerned about the global debt levels, fiscal irresponsibility, which once again this morning has come to surface in Japan. If you watch, they have a new central banker, a lady, who is likely going to who is going to take over, and she's very sort of happy to spend more money. That is actually bullish for something like Bitcoin and the price of gold. You can see that how the markets are reacting to that sort of more fiscal spending in Japan. It's basically dollar versus yen up. So yen is weaker, right? The dollar has its own problems, as we all know, but it's bouncing this morning against the yen. The Nikkei, of course, likes it because equities rally on fiscal irresponsibility or just more spending, right? Let me put it that way. I don't know how much higher the Nikkei can go from here. I'm going to have to imagine that it too, has the ability to sort of not defy gravity for too long. So I kind of see this as a bit of a blow off for the time being, but I don't know if I'd short it. I think that's probably where I kind of come down on this. So quickly as a side note, my colleague Christian just put into our chat box here the link to this week's educational series where we can talk about major trend changes and how we measure them and how we partake in them. I can tell you that a lot of major trend changes have been happening in the market over the course of this year. We've talked about a lot of them. There's a lot more of them just happening now. You can see, for example, uranium. It's not just a trade; it's in a new bullish trend. Commodities as an entire asset class. You look at something like the DBB or DBC ETF, excuse me, which looks at commodities. They're now in a new bullish trend. That's the long-term trajectory. My fear is that a lot of people are going to miss out on a lot of those moves because they're so busy looking at AMD, for example, this morning, right, where there's certainly something happening, and they're probably also going to miss out on the major moves that are taking place on the back of this sort of monetary debasing or fiscal, spending that we're seeing globally at paces that continue to defy gravity. Speaking of gravity, so that's that. Last but not least, I'm going to leave you. So hopefully, are you guys happy so far? Does this help? Have I give you guys a couple of things to look at? So let me just quickly recap, and then we'll look at one more thing. So the link to that webinar is totally free. It's our educational series is in the chat box. So Christian just put it in there if you guys want to join us for that and learn how we take part of like major trend changes. That's like where the big money tends to be made. That would be something that I would encourage you to join this week on Wednesday. So quickly recapping a Q4 trade that I'm watching very closely. I am personally long Bitcoin just from a strategic perspective in a diversified portfolio manner, right? Although it's given its rally is increasingly gaining in size as a percentage of that particular portfolio. But I think if it were to see a continued sort of blow off top rally kind of thing, then I think Bitcoin could catch up. The last one I want to show you, and this is a really interesting chart. I came across it this weekend. I think everyone should be interested in this one. This one here is the price of the XOP ETF, XOP, and basically this is oil and gas exploration stocks, right? So these are big oil companies. What I would like to point out to you is if you take these stocks, these oil stocks, and you compare them to semiconductor stocks, right, then you are looking at a long-term, potentially, and I say this very cautiously, potentially a double bottom that might be starting to come into place here. So I think oil stocks relative to semiconductor stocks are getting extremely, extremely stretched. You can see we're back at levels that we last saw in 2020 at COVID, and I wouldn't be surprised even if we get a bit of a breakdown, fake out here to the downside, that ultimately, if we give this a few, at least a few months, maybe a quarter or two, ultimately we'll see a dramatic shift around in this. So this is one of those big macro traits I'm watching very closely. If you're part of Heat Seeker, this is an incredibly important chart to watch. So anyway, folks, I hope this is helpful. We'll see you guys over in Trade Ops in a few minutes. And if you're a Vertical X Pro member, if you use the Vertical X Pro indicator, we're doing a member session in about 45 minutes. So we'll see you guys there. Have a good start to the week. And as always, any questions, please let us know. Take care.